Do you know what this month is? It's my anniversary. Anniversary, 14 years. So welcome back to the Attorney Cheat Code Podcast. My name is Alicia Jones and I'm a Texas-based attorney. If this is your first time here, then welcome. Come on in the room. And if you've been with me before, then thank you so much for rocking with me. I am here to give you tools necessary to fast track your way to profitable firm ownership so that you can create not just the firm of your dreams, but the life of your dreams. So make sure to hit that button below so that you can subscribe and be notified of future episodes. I am so excited because this month is December. As you can see, my beautiful Christmas tree here. This month, I am celebrating 14 years of being in practice. And the series that is going on right now is Real Lawyers, Real Launches. So what we're talking about is how we are really launching law firms, what we have gone through, the lessons that we've learned, things that we would have done sooner, things that we should have never done, in hopes that the stories and the attorneys and the people that you hear from will inspire you to let you know that we are all a mess. That is what it should tell you, that we are all a mess, that we are figuring it out. It is called the practice of law for a reason, because the way that you are going to practice law is not going to look like someone else. It's not going to be a mirror image of maybe even your mentor, your parent, your friend, or whomever, your professor. It is going to be your path and your journey. So I want to talk to you today about mine. Like, legit, I cannot believe that it has already been 14 years. And I know you're like, oh girl, you look so young. I can't believe you've been practicing law for 14 years. I know. I look like I graduated yesterday. But as you can see from my sweatshirt that says Cooley Law School instead of Western Michigan, you can tell that I went to law school some time ago. And that now it's called Western Michigan, of course. But nonetheless, I remember even just applying for law school, and I remember the hope. I mean, you're young, you're hopeful, you don't have any responsibilities of kids or a spouse. At least, I didn't. That wasn't my journey. And I was like, okay, I'm going to law school. That's what I've always wanted to do. I either wanted to be a teacher or I wanted to go to law school, and so real talk, when I found out the pay difference in the two, it was an easy choice. So I remember when I received one of my first acceptance letters, and it was the weekend of my great grandmother's funeral. And we had just gotten back home, and she was the matriarch of our family. And so it was a celebration, of her life. She lived well. She said what she felt like saying. She did what she wanted to. But when I got home and we checked the mail, because I was living with my parents, got home, checked the mail, and the acceptance was in there, and all I could do was just cry. I was like, wow. Here it is. Here is the next phase of my life. This is what I am about to do. This is what I'm going into. And I can remember standing in the dining room and seeing the letter and tears falling from my eyes. And then, of course, immediately sharing it with my parents and them being so excited. My mom was one of those that would be like, I told you, you're like, why are you surprised? I prayed about it. I knew that was going to happen. That's who she was. So I remember that. And then, of course, going through law school and starting my own firm, it was really out of necessity. I moved from Michigan to Texas and started a firm because I didn't apply anywhere, but I thought that I was going to join with a different firm. I thought that I would be able to, I had met these attorneys and I thought that, they'll bring me in and I'll do one of the areas that they don't want to do, or I'll be an associate here. And it was a lot of conversations about that, a lot of going to court together, a lot of learning from them, but it just never manifested, and I was like, okay, I gotta keep moving. I gotta do this on my own. I have to make sure that I am handling business in the way that I want to, because what I was hoping for over here, with that firm didn't really work out, and it's for the best. The firm doesn't exist anymore. Those attorneys are doing well on their own. And if I had gotten in, then I would have gotten right back out the next year when they dismantled. So nonetheless, that was the first few years of practicing at my dining room table in my apartment. And at that time I had a roommate, and I love her so much because she let me take over a lot of the apartment to make sure that I could spread out and have my laptop. I didn't even have a desktop. My laptop, whatever papers that I had that I printed out, my little printer that, kind of fit on the table. It was one of those big IKEA tables. And that's what we use as a dining room table and as my office. And so I just remember, my first client, and he paid me $1,500 for the case, like the whole probate of his parents' estate. That is, that was the fee. And I felt like I had made it. I was like, $1,500 on one case? My goodness, I have arrived. I am here. I could pay my rent and no worries. I was doing court appointments. I was doing CPS work. I was kissing babies and shaking hands. I was out there, finding and networking with people because I wasn't from here. So I had to build community. I had to network with other attorneys and the judges and just the legal community so that I could know what was going on, so that I could have support, so that, my business could thrive. And so I just remember, some of the lessons that I learned along the way helped to shape where I am today. And so one of my first office, it was, I would say, a closet. I think I'm going to say that, once I got out of the apartment, it was a closet, legit, because the filing cabinets were in there when I went to look at it. And the attorney was like, yeah, you can use this space, for however much a month. And actually, I'm going to tell you, she charged me $500 a month for a closet. And when I look back on it, and when I think about the limited space that I had for $500 a month, I was grateful, one, that I could afford $500 a month and that I had the space. But at the same time, there was no growth that could happen there. I made my first hire there, and she and I sat so close I could hear when she would swallow. Like, that's how small this office was. Like, if she was blinking too much, I'm gonna need her to go take a break because we are way too close. Like, you can't even wear perfume in here. Put your lotion on outside and come back in because this space is way too intimate for you to, like, I think Martin was one of those. It's so small, you got to go outside to change your mind. That is what that office was. So, of course, it was not a space that I wanted to meet clients in. It wasn't a space that I wanted to grow my business. And outside of meeting clients there, I met at Starbucks. So I would go to the local Starbucks and I would meet clients. And funny enough, when I think about how many clients I met at different Starbucks around the city, I cannot think of one that I met with that did not sign up for services, honestly. So that is just a testament. And I hope that you can take from that, do not despise, as the word says, do not despise small beginnings, humble beginnings, and thinking about being in such an open, public, crowded, loud space and selling your services to this person that's sitting across from you is a skill. I have to say, it definitely is a skill that I had to refine, but it also speaks to how people can connect with you despite where you are. That you don't need the fancy office. They don't need a reception area to come and sit in. They don't need cucumber water to greet them. All of those things are wonderful. Those things are nice. And that's definitely something that you can aspire to, but it's not a necessity to start. Legit, I started in Starbucks and a closet. Those are my two options. You either meet me at the Starbucks or you meet me in this closet over here where you and I are going to hear each other's thoughts because it's so small. So after that, but I'm still practicing and I'm still growing and I'm still learning. And at that point, I was doing a lot of family law and a lot of CPS work and caring for children and representing parents in CPS cases and seeing the people from our community and how drugs were impacting families and how it was separating families and even how our court system was, a lot of the judges, a lot of the attorneys were doing their best, and it was still separating families. It was still taking children away from their parents. It was still putting people in jail. It was still a lot of that going on, and I worked in that area for quite a number of years, maybe a good 8 or 9 years of the first 8 or 9 years of my practice. That's what I was doing. And I got burnt out. I said, you know what? It's too involved. It's too much. On a regular CPS case, we could go there at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning for docket call. And our case could get called at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the next day. Like, it's a whole situation to the point that the attorneys that I was doing that with, we're super close even now because we spent so much time together just in court. And that's because at that point for me, I didn't know anything about systems. I don't think anybody was talking about putting systems into place and just thinking about the way that you want your firm to run. I know that I was not thinking for myself. I want to represent, and I represent persons in CPS cases. And of course, I'm sorry, CPS for us is Child Protective Services. So the Texas Department of Family and Protection, in services is, the care and protection of children. So working with CPS cases and, me really wanting to make some type of change, I'm still fresh. I'm like, I want to help. I want to help parents be rehabilitated. I want to get them some services, some classes, some parenting classes, some drug classes, just getting them out of abusive situations so that this family can have an opportunity to live a better life. And you see some of that, but a lot of it was hopeless. Or at least that's how it felt. It felt like you were climbing uphill with some slick bottom shoes on, like a watery, snowy, icy hill that you were climbing with slick bottoms on. And you're trying to get traction, and you're trying to move, and you're trying to get some wins under your belt, and you're trying to help families. And there's so much red tape, and there's so many things in place that kind of prevent you from being able to provide holistic services to that family as they need to actually move from one position to the other. And so nonetheless, I got burned out from that. And I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I can't do drug court anymore. I cannot continue to do CPS cases. I need to transition. I need to transition the way I am practicing, but I still didn't put a system in place to make that happen. I just said, you know what? I want to make a change, and I made a change, right? I stopped accepting cases. I let the judges know, please don't assign me anymore. Once I have this caseload done, that's it for me. I knew that I needed to control my time more because CPS was so involved and it required so much in court time and traveling to clients' homes and to CPS meetings across town. And if you've ever been to Houston, whether you have or you're not, Houston is huge. So you could be driving for a good 2 hours and still be in Houston. So I'm driving half the day to go to a meeting or to sit in on a visitation. Too much. So it was just too much, when I'm thinking about what it required from me. And I didn't have support staff. So if I was in court from 8 to 3, 4, 5, however, whatever time it was, then unless I could step out and answer my phone, I was not getting calls. I was not receiving, those messages from potential clients. And at that point, you have one phone and they're calling your cell. So kind of want to text them, but you kind of don't. I'm not one of those attorneys that I want clients to feel like we are friends. I don't need you texting me throughout the weekend and the evenings because you just felt like it. No, that is not me. So I did not want to establish that early on because I know I didn't want to continue with that. So that just means that I was missing calls, which means that I was missing possible clients, possible opportunities, possible cases. And until I made the decision that, you know what, I'm going to have to let go of this. It has provided a lot of funds and financial contributions to the firm, but it's taken too much from me and is no longer fulfilling for me. So I need to transition. Again, still not putting a system in place, just knowing that I needed a change. And so one of the hard lessons I would say that I learned during that time was, not planning I don't think it cost me any time because I think that the time that I spent on those cases was valuable. I do think, however, I would have gone into it a bit different if I had a system in place, if I knew that I had a particular revenue goal, or if I had support staff to take some of that off of me, then maybe I could have stayed in the CPS world a bit longer and helped more families or helped more children. But when it all fell on me, it was just too much. I could no longer carry that. I didn't want to carry that any longer. So I had to let that go. So fast forward, like I said, my first case was a probate case. And so now I am handling probate and legacy planning exclusively. I don't handle family law anymore. Again, because of my systems down, because of the support staff that I have, I was able to really have a bird's eye view and say, okay, I think right now that, I need to transition away from a particular practice area into something different. And then what does that look like? What does my bottom line look like? And am I going to do marketing? Because I didn't even start doing marketing until year 10 or 11. Up until then, it was court appointments and word of mouth. And let me remind you, I am not from Texas. When I moved here, I knew two people, my brother who at that point was an electrical engineer, and my cousin, who was a teacher. So I knew no one when I came here. And because of the grace of God, because of, him controlling my destiny, I was able to come into this area, this region, this field of practice, and really move forward because of grace. Legit, because of grace. Because even to think that I had referrals from where? From where, girl? Who's sending you referrals? You don't know nobody. Nobody knows you. Nobody's grandmother's like, call my baby. Nobody is, really trusting the stranger, the new person in town. So it was only and has only been by the grace of God that I had a pipeline of referrals to sustain me for a decade in practice. So after that, I then, around a decade, I started to hire, and I hired a legal assistant who is now a licensed attorney. So I hired a legal assistant in year 9 or 10, around that time of practice. And I had an admin, my virtual admin, which was my mom, and she didn't live in Texas, but that's fine. As you know, I'm from Alabama. So she would answer the phones, but my mom could sell ice to an Eskimo. So I knew that if she answered those phones, then my clients were going to feel cared for. They were going to feel heard, and she loved to talk. So they would chit chat on the phone. She would pray for them, and they would call back, and, she would just handle that. So, just having the blessing of her there. But I also then began to understand the necessity of support staff and then the roles of each of these people. And I started to build an office manual of, okay, well, this is what this looks like, and this is what that looks like. And that is when I think my love for operating procedures and policies and KPIs and metric and, all of that administrative tracking, that's when my interest started to peak. And it excited me to update my office manual on a quarterly basis because something has changed. I've learned something new. Something has developed. There's a new way to do this thing over here, that thing over there. And so we need to put that new policy in place. So let's get it done. So every quarter I was updating my office policy procedure, my office manual. And I had two different ones, one for the virtual team, one for the in-person team. But that's when, like I said, I started to hire. And then I would hire a couple paralegals, hired an attorney, and just growing and just practicing law and just really starting to enjoy it again, really feeling like what I was doing was making a difference. And not just in my clients, but the opportunity for maybe some people serving or coming in as a legal assistant that had not had any exposure to attorneys or to Black female attorneys specifically, or maybe didn't have a positive one. And then for them to be able to come in and work with me and hopefully learn and grow at the firm. The one thing that I have heard consistently from people that have worked in the firm is that it's like none other, and they do feel that they can be themselves here. And that makes my heart smile to think about that, to think that people can come into the firm and really show up in the way that is authentic to them and enjoy the practice of law. Because if we are not enjoying it, then why are we doing it? You might as well go flip burgers if you're not going to enjoy the practice. So that is a word for you. Right now, think about it for yourself. Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Or do I need to make a shift in one way or the other? Okay. So as I do, of course, I want to remind you that I'm not special. I feel I'm special. Hopefully my husband feels I'm special, which he does. But I am not special in the way that only I can practice law, or only I can create a firm that I enjoy, or only I can have this type of journey. You can too. And maybe you have been hemming and hawing. Maybe you are brand new and you're like, I don't know where to start. Maybe you have been practicing for a while and working for other people, and it just sits on the inside of you that, you know what, this is not what I want to do. I really want to have my own. And then maybe you have established a practice and it has been going for decades, and you want to change the way you practice or start to phase out, from being in the day to day. And you're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go from here. I want you to be honest with yourself about where you are now and take a leap of faith. That's all it takes. A leap of faith. Believe in yourself. Of course, I'm going to say it. Set your systems. Make sure that you have your systems and all of those things in place, which, we have forms for that to help you kind of get the things out of your mind, to think about, what does my firm look like? Who's my client avatar? What is my revenue goal? What systems and software do I need? What type of integrations? What type of delegations? What type of automations can I put into place so that I can launch with, focus, and I can launch with some steam behind me. And you can. Or you're like, hey, I'm established. That's not the issue. Clients are coming in, the work is here, and I want to enjoy my life a bit more. Maybe you want to work in your practice for 1, maybe 2 days a week, but you don't want your income to drop. You want to say, hey, I want to continue to move forward. As the firm moves forward, I want to increase my income, my owner draw, my bonuses, however you pay yourself. And you're like, I need to know how to make that happen. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you with the templates, help you with creating that timeline, to help you with creating being an architect of freedom. Making sure that the freedom that you so desire is something that you absolutely can achieve. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. You believe in you. You just have to pull that belief out a bit more, and you just have to step out on faith. You have to believe that it's going to work well, that you're going to succeed. So speak that over yourself today, and then you'll look up like me. Of course, if you just started and you're celebrating 14 years, like what? How has it been 14 years? Or for those that have been practicing for 30, 40, 50 years, you're going to look back and enjoy the practice versus being one of those that's still downtown running behind money because things are not in place well. You didn't have good systems in place. You didn't have a plan in place for retirement. So I am Alicia Jones, and I hope that hearing my story has inspired you today. I hope that you have gained some type of insight or some jewel or some nugget from it. And if you have, I would love to hear about it. Send me a message, drop a comment below the video, and I will see you next time.